So an unnaturally held belief is a belief, an opinion or whatever that I'm going to define as one that only seeks to justify a pre-established belief. So someone's already got an ideology or a particular opinion or outlook on life or whatever that they hold to be true for some reason, who knows what reason, if any reason at all. And so because they want to pretend to be deep and philosophical and this ultra intellectual intelligent person, they're going to come up with some kind of moral philosophy take. Like the one about capitalism, right? Naturally, every single person knows that saying that it won't cost them anything, not financially, but also not in terms of sweat. It won't cost them any time, won't cost them any effort to just go out of their way a little bit, just to help someone, to prevent them from dying, like basic mutual aid. Not expecting something in return, just doing things because that's the right thing to do. Not everything has a monetary incentive in life, which is of course why capitalism and markets are completely unnecessary. But anyway, the point is that's just normal morality. Preventing someone from dying, preventing someone from being hit by a car, from having their bones broken. Like holy fucking shit, like being a decent human being, that's called, right? And anyone would naturally agree with that, which is why they do. But capitalists have created this kind of alternative morality in their mind that, they now don't perceive that to be moral. But it's not that they began disagreeing that, preventing, not intervening is immoral because you didn't, cause that person death to begin with, right? They didn't come into this conversation before they even started supporting capitalism or whatever they support with this mentality that, why are we blaming innocent bystanders for not intervening? It's not like they caused the murders that they're witnessing. These people are being murdered by other people. You know what I mean? So why do we blame them? It's like they don't consider that to be immoral. They don't consider, not pressing the button to prevent people being gassed to death to be immoral, right? Because they're just passive. They didn't put people in the gas chamber to begin with, right? Now that's an unnaturally held belief because they didn't hold that belief prior to, adopting capitalism as their ideology. If anything, it's the opposite. They want to justify capitalism, and they already began believing that capitalism is necessary, and it's okay for capitalists to steal from the proletariat, and it's okay for millionaires and billionaires to withhold wealth from all of society, those who are less fortunate and need that money way, way more. And they try to justify this with this take which they otherwise would not believe. And nobody does believe, which is why this sentiment, you only ever hear it from capitalists. And it's only when the conversation surrounds capitalism and its horrible pollutive effects upon the planet, Like only in that context, you'll never hear anyone say this stuff like this kind of stuff outside of this. Yes, you got the trolley problem, but the whole point of the trolley problem is just to intervene in some way, right? You're either you do one thing or you do the other, right? You let one person die or you let multiple people die, right? The point is you still do something to prevent death. You don't just, stand there idly and wave and just allow for, horrible shit to happen. That's not how that works. That's not how it's ever worked, right? And that there is just something people adhere to and talk about regardless of economic position or what their, the economic stuff that they personally believe. So that's what I mean by an unnaturally held belief. Now imagine this, right? Imagine someone gets shot, right? In like some kind of mugging, right? They're in some kind of neighborhood and they happen to be walking around at night and they get robbed, but then they also get like shot in the kneecaps or I don't know, they got like, their legs smacked open with hammers or like carved out with like a machete or like something like that, right? Okay, they can't walk, right? Now they're in a goddamn wheelchair, okay? They're taken to the hospital, they're in a wheelchair. At that point, because they're forced into such an misfortunate scenario, they're gonna do everything they possibly can to try and brighten the mood, to try and make this as less of a horrific, situation as possible, to basically, to downplay the horrors they're experiencing. Because their life seemingly fucking sucks. I mean, we can't deny that. So they're going to unnaturally hold this belief that perhaps not walking, perhaps being in a wheelchair has some benefits. It's a better way of life even. That's what happens when you're forced into that scenario. You just try and cope with what you have. And it's a lot of stuff, right? Maybe someone who's not initially a vegetarian who goes and becomes a vegetarian would start saying meat is disgusting, it tastes awful, right? Even though they were happily eating it before. And maybe that indicates that they're holding this unnaturally held belief, right? It's an unnatural belief. It's not creating naturally. It's not what you think. You're just making up this stuff to justify an ideology you adhere to or a lifestyle you've adopted or something like that. That's what I mean by an unnaturally held belief. And people do this all the time with all sorts of things. It's like the country you're stuck in, you have no other passport, you can't leave, you're forced to live here all your life. Well, maybe you'll try and make it like less horrible of a scenario for yourself. I mean, that's what you should do, but you'll start lying to yourself. Or start claiming that this country you're in has qualities which it absolutely does not possess. That it somehow has all these positive traits which just aren't there. Because you're just coping. You know, you're trying your best to just like maintain your sanity and your happiness and etc. And I get it, you know? But it's just not good to lie to yourself. Like, try and look on the bright side, but don't create a bright side when it's not there. And that's the same with capitalists, right? They started believing that it's okay, that all these ultra-wealthy people withhold their wealth, don't give to people who need it. And thus they started creating this bizarre justification, like, it's okay to just stand by or walk by or stop or just not prevent the misery that's inflicted upon other people, even if it's no cost to you. Even if it doesn't harm you. Even if you're guaranteed there's no harm that will come to you in preventing the suffering of others. Like, how depraved do you have to be? Like, how immoral? How far gone does a person have to be to the point where they stop believing this kind of stuff? It's unnatural, it's gross, it's unnecessary, and it shows that capitalism is innately an awful ideology. We just happen to live under it. Virtually no one, if not literally no one, would be defending the system if workers actually had the means of production. If they actually controlled production. People would not be just because that's capitalism is what we have. And that's why people act the way they do. And that is unfortunate.